is New Hampshire ready for progressive politics?
Absolutely.
You think so?
Yeah, I really do think so. I think America is ready for progressive politics. And I say that for a couple of reasons. The first is because progressive policies are supported by broad swaths of the American public.
Yeah.
Right? Like we want healthcare we can afford and access. We want childcare we can afford and access. We want a wage that pays us enough to live and gives us enough extra time so that we can spend it with our families doing things for our communities. I've been called the most progressive and the most bipartisan candidate. And I think what we really need is people who recognize that, like, when Washington's problems are our problems, things will finally start to change. And the only way to do that is to get people into Congress who know what our problems are and will prioritize them.
You know, and I wanted to start with that question because now that I've been here in New Hampshire, I'm going on 9 years now. New Hampshire is very middle of the road. We love electing centrists, and I'm not sure if we can get over that hump. Like I get excited when I see progressive politics being brought in because it's like a chance to see the outside of what other states are experiencing, especially here in New England. But we're quite a red state, if not purple.
Yeah.
We're blue at the federal. I don't know if we'll ever get blue at the state level. I guess maybe those are my concerns.
I hope so, yeah.
You know, over and over again, I've only been able to vote for the centrist, and I want more. With progressive policies, I agree that everybody in the United States is clamoring for them, but it's such a uphill battle with billionaires and corporations. I don't know if we can beat them as progressives. Do you have a different view?
Well, not with that attitude, Adam.
Yeah, not with that attitude, right?
I mean, I do think that like the stories we tell about like who we are and where the divides are really do dictate a lot of what we think is possible right now. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is like we had a forum in Manchester the other night.
Yes.
And every single one of those candidates was like, tax the wealthy. I'm not taking corporate PAC money. Now, whether or not that's actually reflected in like the decisions they make is one thing. But I do think that we have a really amazing, progressive, young slate of candidates to represent this district. And like ultimately the question in front of us is who do we want sitting around the table down in DC next year making choices that will affect us? And like, who do we want down there? Who do we want to send? And I mean, like when it comes to things like universal health care, you know, I believe really strongly that everyone should have health care from the day they are born until the day they die. And that health care needs to include your eyes. And I don't just say that because I wear glasses, and your ears and your teeth and like mental health care. And I think that should be something that we all have. And one of the things that makes me excited about this is like I serve on the budget committee in Hampton, and I know that one of the key drivers of costs, one of the things that raises our property taxes is how expensive it is to provide our employees with health care.
Fully agree. And that's changed so much since the one big beautiful bill.
Exactly.
So I don't know if we can climb back out. I mean, it's going to take quite an effort. Yeah. But I like the fact that we do have a handful of progressive running because it pushes everybody else left. And so many years we've seen everything get pushed to the right. Yeah. So this is a correction, and I like that. We have what, 3, 4 progressives? I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm not here to compare, you know, that, but it's a lot. And this is the first time that I think as a voter I get to see such a push. Mm-hmm. Do you have like a top 3 priorities? Because I know kind of what you stand for, but like, what is your big drive? Do you have any in particular, or?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is making sure that we root out corruption in Washington. And what that means is like so many people are so cynical about our political system. They say to me like, how could someone like you win if you don't have like millions and millions of dollars? And I say, well, I have $500,000 that I've raised from thousands of people across New Hampshire and across the country. And that has to count for something.
Because I know that it's such a huge, like, we need to fix everything. Yeah. And I understand that. Yeah. You know, but when you go to Washington, or if somebody's going to Concord here, I know that they have like a number 1, number 2, number 3. So,
sure. Yeah. So like, I think like making it clear to people that like campaign finance is something that's possible if we put people into office who will actually enact and follow kind of the rules that we want them to follow. So things like saying, hey, if I get elected, I'm not going to take pay during a federal government shutdown when federal workers aren't getting paid. saying, I'm going to hold myself to 3 term limits. I'm somebody who fully endorses term limits and promises that I don't want to be a politician for the rest of my life. I don't want to do this till my kids are grown. Right. I want to get in there and change when I can change and then pass the baton to somebody else. You know, I'm somebody who says our Congress people shouldn't be trading stocks based on insider information that they have that the rest of us don't. And these are easy things for me to say, but they're also demonstrated in the way that I'm running this campaign. And like when I talk about corruption as something that is really, really critical, it's because, again, so many people are so turned off from politics, period. Because all they see, regardless of party, is politicians who help themselves and literally nobody else year after year after year. So I think that those things are number one. But like also, what do we do about the affordability situation in New Hampshire? Like no one can afford to live here. We can't afford to have kids. We can't afford to live in our homes. Like, so fully funding our public schools is something that the federal government made a promise to do with things like Title I funding or IDEA funding.
Yeah.
You know, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, they're supposed to be paying 40% of the cost. And last year they paid 12%. And that means we paid the rest. And like when our property taxes go up, whether you're a homeowner or a renter, you're paying that. And it means less money for you to like take your kids to the movies or buy the berries at like Walmart or Market Basket. And so I think that our government really needs to take very seriously things like raising the minimum wage to a livable wage, because people can't afford to continue on the path that we're on.
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody's feeling it, especially like gas, the way it is, the groceries, the way they... Here in New Hampshire, we tried solving the housing issue. Well, not we, but they, you know, by just allowing us to put small little buildings in the back of our house, you know, ADUs. That just feels like, it feels bad. It feels like a patch.
Yeah.
And
it is a patch.
Yeah. We need more housing. We need all kinds of housing.
Yeah.
I told you in the beginning, I have my kids here. They're all adults, but they haven't made that leap yet because of the cost. I think a lot of young people are feeling that. I think it's important that we send somebody to Washington that's going to be there for us, and not corporate donors, not, you know, a lot of what we see today.
Yeah.
My son asked me, or I asked him, I told you earlier that I wanted to know, what would somebody in their 20s want to ask somebody running for US rep?
Yeah.
And his response was, after thinking about it for 2 minutes or so, will we ever go back to normal? Will he ever be able to feel what I have received, what my parents have received, my grandparents, and so on? A life, American dream, something that he can call his. We saw it ruined in COVID. Right now is horrible for inflation and the way the economy is. Can I tell him anything good after this? I know I started off kind of dark, but like, this is important to so many people. Yeah.
And this is our lives. Like, this is it. Yeah. And it feels like this is not it. Yeah. I mean, I'm somebody who's in my 30s, so I'm 37. And when I graduated from college, it was at the height of the Great Recession. And I moved to the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and I was a teacher there for 3.5 years. And I came back and I went to graduate school. I helped create a union. And when I graduated from Harvard with my PhD, I had $14 in my checking account. And I have so many friends who are in their 30s who won't have kids because they can't afford it. And they don't want to bring up kids in a country, in a world like this one, who can't afford literally a car because everything is so out of reach. And if you don't have access to like generational wealth or parents who will let you live with them so you can get on your feet, like you're out of luck. And that's not your fault. Like, it's not okay that we make so many people feel so isolated, and like it's their responsibility right now to solve the world's problems. So like what I would say to your son is like, there was no normal, you know, like I'm slightly older, and like the world that I grew up in was so different than the world that I was learning about in my history books or at school. It wasn't like work hard, you know, save up, get a job that pays you or gives you a pension. Like that world hasn't existed for a long time. And I think we need to let go of that. I think we need to build something better. And I want like your son and people from that generation to be a huge part of this. Like tell him to call me and tell me what he wants. I want him to be involved in the campaign and to shape this together. I think we can build something so much better than what we used to have.
Oh, I fully agree. I'm probably one of the more unique people because my kids are very political. I have one that's going to run for school board next year. So we have a lot going on. And I do have passionate people that I brought into this world, and they care. When I grew up, I say this loosely, but when I was like my 20s,
Yeah.
I felt like I still had some buying power. I felt like I still had something to do with the economy. Gas was still $1 a gallon. Of course, we saw that double, triple, quadruple during the Iraq and Afghanistan wars.
Yeah.
2006, I can remember I had to go to work on the base.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any gas. Gas was $5 a gallon.
I remember that summer.
I had just enough to get on base and put $5 of gas in my tank because I had no money. It was crazy. And then now we're seeing it again.
Yeah. That was right when I got my driver's license. And I remember that summer so well. I drove across the country and I remember trying to math it out and to see if we would be able to make it because it was so expensive to fill up the car back then. And then it went down again and it was amazing.
Yeah.
And now we're in this place where like yesterday it cost me $55 to fill up my Impreza and I'm losing my mind.
It's insane. Yeah, my car is now $120 to fill up. You know, there's probably a lot of people that will listen to this and be like, oh, well, mine's 80, mine's 90. You know, everybody's feeling this. It's overwhelming.
Well, you didn't budget for it, right? It's like property taxes in New Hampshire. Like they just go up and we have no control over it. Or like healthcare costs. Hey, sorry, your subsidies are gone. Like you're paying full freight and it's actually going to cost you almost as much money as you make.
Yeah. I was thinking last night, I was on the couch just decompressing. I was thinking about this, and I was also thinking about Americans that live paycheck to paycheck and what a doubling in gas would mean for them. Everybody likes to say in New Hampshire that everybody gets paid at least $15 or more. That is so far from true. The Facebook comment warriors are always like, if you're making blah, 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 you need to go get a skill. You need to go do this. And I don't know when, but I'm hoping that some of these people will wake up and realize that the world is set against you. Unless you come from generational wealth or you're lucky and you can grift the entire American population with Trump phones and everything else. The rest of us are just here picking up the bill.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of setting people back and causing people to do things that they would never do. I want more out of this. When you go, hopefully, to the U.S. House, you're going to be there with, I'm hoping, with a lot of progressives. Do you already know what kind of committees you want to sit on? Like, where do you want to affect policy for us?
Yeah. I think the first one I would say is education and the workforce. I mean, like, I am somebody who has been at a bargaining table. I've gone on strike for my own job. And, those are the types of committees where the decisions that affect us and our workforce, right? Our teachers investing in kids. Like my husband's a middle school teacher. You know, we met in high school a long time ago, 20 years ago. And my kids are in school and our teachers and our kids, you know, even before they get to school, like they really need a lot more investment. And we can do that as a country. And I want to make sure that we're prioritizing our kids and our teachers. You know, you have older kids now, but my kids I still have one in daycare, and it costs as much to send my kid to daycare as it would to send them to UNH.
Absolutely.
And that's crazy. I did not know that when I had kids. If I had known that, I definitely would have been like, oh my God, let me save up for another decade.
Yeah.
Because it's literally bankrupting us to send our kids to daycare. Like my husband and I both got extra jobs so we could afford to send our kids to daycare. How backwards is that?
Well, it's crazy because they want us to work for nothing. They want us to give birth forced. They want us to put human beings into the labor market.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do anything beyond that.
Well, that's why the AI stuff is really concerning. And like such a big part of my campaign is reining in big tech and really holding them accountable because they have so much power that we didn't vote on. Like I didn't vote for AI to be integrated into every part of my life and all of my interactions with other people. I didn't vote for like Elon Musk to be in charge of, you know, cutting wasteful spending in our government or controlling our media environment, our ecosystem. And I think that the impact that they're having is really, really harmful to kids and to families and to our democracy and our ability to sit across the table and have conversations and really seek to understand what people want and what they care about. So education and the workforce is really important to me because like the average childcare worker in New Hampshire isn't making enough money to send their kid to daycare.
Yeah.
That's not okay. And like for anybody who says, people are making, the market is taking care of it, like that simply isn't true. And that's a problem. And we need to address it. New Hampshire has no federal, or we have no state minimum wage. We got rid of it. We just have the federal, and it's $7.25. And there are people in New Hampshire making that and struggling to get by. And we need to do so much better for workers and just regular people in this country.
Yeah. I know actual adults in their 40s and 50s making $11 or $13 an hour right here in my local area.
Yeah.
I don't know where these talking points are coming from, but if it wasn't for Boston, I don't know what shape New Hampshire would be in. Like, we depend on outside resources, whether that's Maine or Massachusetts.
Yeah, federal spending. Like, federal spending is one of our biggest sources of revenue as a state.
Yes. And we've just been sold that this is the way it is.
Yeah.
You're going to have to live with it and live within your means. And it seems so unfair.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a deeply dissatisfied person. And so it's like, how can we channel that? Like, I guess I was raised to believe that in the United States, like, people should be able to make enough money to live and to, put food on the table. And they should also have enough time to sit around the table and eat it. I don't want to work myself to death. I have people in my town who are in their late 80s who had to go back to work at like Marshall's or Hannaford in order to pay for their property tax increases, because we live in a state that is 48th out of 50 states when it comes to state support for cities and towns. And that means we have higher property taxes. And we also have a federal government that's not fully funding our public schools. So we are paying that cost ourselves. And that's something where we could have better partners in Washington who are fighting to fully fund our public education system, who are fighting against like these voucher programs. And that would lower our property taxes. And it would also help our kids. It would help our kids. Like, that is money well spent when it's spent on our kids, because they are the future of this country.
Fully agree. If we invest into our community, we will reap those benefits.
Yeah. And that's how things get stronger. This is why I'm thrilled to hear that someone in your family is running for school board.
Yeah.
Not just because I love local government and I am the chair of the select board. I love local government. But it's like, if we have stronger communities, we can have better politics.
Absolutely.
That is absolutely the basis. Like, it starts in our communities, and it starts in developing a better bench for the Democratic Party in the state. People who don't see themselves as like politicians or inclined to run for office because maybe no one's ever asked them, right? Or because, they look at who is running for office and who wins these types of races and they say, that's not me. But everybody should be able to see themselves as somebody who can make a profound impact on their communities, and everyone should be able to run for office. That's what America is about.
I agree. I love my community. That's why I ran for office for this community. I do this for this community.
Yeah.
There's so much goodness here.
Yeah.
I love Barrington and so many other places in New Hampshire. I think my kids are just tired of seeing the negatives, and they want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of that change. I'm excited when she told me, she's like, Dad, I think I'm ready. Now, she's a graduate math education, so she would have been a math teacher.
Yeah.
She chose not to go in there for many reasons. I won't get into it here, but yeah, I am excited as a parent to hear that my kids want to give back to their community. What greater gift could you provide, right?
None. There's literally no better gift. Yeah. Like, Adam, that is the most exciting and most important thing. And like, as a parent, you want your kids to be kind. You want them to have a good sense of humor.
Absolutely.
And you want them to feel like they have an opportunity and a responsibility to shape the world around them, to recognize they're connected to other people.
Yes.
And to realize like how important solidarity is, right? Like, it's not just everybody living on their own little islands. Like, we are so connected. The things we care about are connected. And I think that we have lost sight of that in a lot of ways in this country.
Oh, absolutely. Just being able to just log on to something, whether it's Facebook, Blue Sky, your email, whatever, and just knowing that your neighbors are good, make sure that, no crimes going on in your town, just being able to live freely without any of the nonsense that we get today. That's exciting. But you're in a unique position because you probably post all over social media. No, I
actually don't have any social media.
I get your emails every day.
Yeah, you get my emails. I know, it's amazing. So many people don't realize that I'm not on social media because they either have seen me in their living room or like in their school library or like in a church basement, or they get my emails or they read my blog. So I have a website, CarleighBeriont.com, shameless plug.
Oh, I'm going to put it in the link,
awesome.
In the description. So,
yeah, but like, I don't post all the time because I really think that one, social media, all of our social media companies are run by right-wing billionaires. Like in 2016, not the case. In 2026, this is the case.
Absolutely.
And there's no getting around that. And they have an outsized influence on our political system, but they also have incentivized and monetized our disagreement to a point where like so many people don't recognize that we actually have a lot in common. And like this circles back to what you asked about in the beginning. People in New Hampshire want to be safe in their homes.
Yep.
They want to afford to live here.
Yep.
And we want the temperature of the politics turned down.
People just want to live. They don't want to have to go home and flip through Reddit and catch all the news and all that. They just want to live. They want to go to work. They want to raise a family. They want to have a nice house.
We just want to live.
That's it. But we have so many forces that are working against us. Okay, so this makes the question even a little bit more interesting, because if you don't use social media, like I haven't posted on Facebook since December 2024.
Yeah.
Because I feel the same way you feel. And I also feel like it doesn't do anything. Every time I post, not on my personal, because I have decent friends and everything, but like if I post on a community and then you look at the comments, it's just awful.
Yeah.
You just look down, it was like, Democrats suck.
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to raise my taxes. I know that most of those people aren't real.
This is true.
Do they get to you through your campaign? Do you get wild emails then? How do people get their hate to you?
Good question. How do we get the hate around? Honestly, you know, my husband actually was asking me about this morning. He was like, I don't know if there's enough people attacking you. And I was like, I think that's maybe a good thing. And I think partially it's because like I go to people and I don't start by telling them why they're wrong or why they voted against their own self-interest. I think we have so many politicians who make so many assumptions about the people who live here. And I also think we have a lot of voters who make a lot of assumptions about our politicians. And I think we need to have conversations so we can start with actually getting better information. So like what I've done on the campaign, instead of spending my time posting, is I've spent my time, it has now been 11 months. I have put, and you can look at my odometer, 21,000 miles on my car, which is why I'm not happy about the gas prices. And I've been in every room that I can find someone to let me into. And I have asked them, like, what do you wish that Washington understood? Because I got to think that our politicians are missing something. And I got to think that I don't think the people are the problem. I think people have good answers. Like when you ask people about healthcare, they say they want affordable healthcare. They say they want to be able to get to a doctor. And it doesn't matter what political party you're part of, you're pissed about the healthcare situation. And so this is why I think like we are not that divided, and why I think that most people actually really do support a lot of things that are quite quote unquote progressive, right? Living wages. Yeah. We want it.
It sounds fantastic to me.
Yeah.
I think these people have been programmed. I say these people.
Yeah.
It's such a hard cliche to say that, but I feel like they have been trained to do this.
Yeah, of course we have, right? Like there are so many forces at play here that are making a lot of money isolating us and radicalizing us. And we have seen the harm. Like Meta has now been held criminally liable for harming children in court. They are harming us. And like I'm a teacher, I have seen the impact of these like social media, you know, apps on kids and their self-image and our ability to be uncomfortable and to relate to one another. And like I'm a mom, I taught my kids how to read by sitting with them and reading. I have nightmares about teaching my kids how to use Instagram, where it's like, hey kids, here's how you decide what like snarky comment to post or what filter, or like, here's how you make people feel really bad about something cool you're doing. And like, we just need to stop, and it changes the way our politicians show up.
Yeah.
Because they're doing something for somebody out there and they're not able to be here with us present and listen to what we are saying. Oh,
it's so difficult to listen to hearings in Washington because everything is a soundbite.
Exactly.
Everything is WWE, you know, like I'm surprised Hegseth doesn't come in with pyrotechnics and, you know, he's probably thinking about it. Don't get me wrong, but we need to get past that. Yeah. We need to get down to business and actually making people's lives better.
Yeah.
I just feel drained because whenever I do post, I'm exasperated because how many times can you tell somebody the Democrats aren't in charge? Your issue is with your Republicans, especially at the federal level, right? Yeah. They own everything. They have the Supreme Court, all of Congress, the White House. There's so many bad actors that have almost cloaked what our world really is right now.
Yeah.
If you just listen to Fox News, everything's great.
Oh, I do. I listen to like conservative talk radio all the time. I drive so much, right? So it's like, what am I going to listen to? But I also go on talk radio because I think it is important to like show up where there are people and to hear them. And so, I mean, I think that you're right about this insofar as like people are so mad and it's like, where do we direct our anger? Like, for example, in Hampton, 2 years ago, we did a revaluation. AKA everyone's property taxes went up because we realized, hey, we really need to raise more revenue to keep like our trash trucks going and our firefighters insured, because our state has constantly cut back and our federal government has cut back on the support that they give us. So it all comes to us now to pick up the pieces and to keep our communities together, which is absurd. But like when we raised those property taxes, like people came in for months and they said things like, you know, you're getting paid like all this money. And it's like, no, like we get paid $3,000 and like our options, like what we can do to fix this, to alleviate this pressure on you it's so limited. Like this is why I'm running for Congress, because I'm like, I am out of tools at the local level. We need to go to DC to fix this. But people don't know necessarily because it's hard for them to, you know, focus on what's going on or to find avenues into local politics and really meet the people that are working with them from their community to make life better.
Oh, fully. My first introduction to you really was the Barrington format that we did.
That was fun.
For anybody that doesn't know what that is, we did the candidate forum on April 8th. It is on this channel. I did the full recording and everything. And I got to listen to everybody make their points. And I was really impressed with what you brought to the table, because you live in Hampton. So I don't have any interaction over there. But I was really happy about that. You've done, if I'm thinking about Manchester, which I have not watched yet.
Yeah, it was last night. It just went on the Manchester Public TV.
Okay. So I did read a few things through NH Talk, just trying to figure out, like, did it go well or not? You did Barrington, Portsmouth. Was there any others?
There was one that Open Democracy was going to host that got canceled, and UNH students and the Durham Dems actually put together a forum at UNH, and 4 of the candidates were at that one. And we have a couple upcoming. We have one in Hampton Falls, or Hampton, I guess, on May 27th. And there's going to be one hopefully in Concord and Conway. So there will be hopefully other opportunities. And I have them listed on the events page of the website.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So I was just curious, a couple things.
Yeah.
How do you enjoy doing that format? Just as a candidate, you know, being up on stage, I imagine there's lots of people out there.
Yeah.
How does that feel from your perspective?
It's so funny you say that. So it's a great question. One of the people after Barrington came up to me and he was like, I think, you know, we have good candidates, but you really seem to enjoy answering questions. And like, you seem like you're happy to be up on stage getting these questions from people. And I am. Like, how lucky am I to get to spend a year listening to people and like all the things that are pissing us off and stressing us out and keeping us up at night, and then be put in a position where I can do something about it. It is like the greatest gift in the world. I love questions. I don't mind disagreement. I don't mind hearing things that are hard. And I think we need politicians who are able to do that. You know, not just have like an intern post like a direct to cam that is really just to raise money, rather than to actually connect with voters. Like, people are amazing in New Hampshire.
Oh, we love our politics. And so any opportunity to get out there.
Everyone's like so smart. There's great questions. Like, it makes you think. And I think that's so important, like to think about what we think.
Yeah, I was actually asking my kids, like, in the future, if we ever choose to settle somewhere else or whatever, and they said, Dad,
don't leave.
Stop. The amount of access you have to politicians in this state is insane. You're not going to get that anywhere else. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. We have that privilege.
It's the best.
Our reps represent about 3,300 people, you know, each. That's why we have 400.
Yep.
It's so easy. Tomorrow you're going to the convention.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Me too.
It's amazing, right? And it's like, wow, you can actually get in touch with all of the people.
I can go say hi to Governor Beshear tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he will say hi to me. He's done it already. So
I think it's the best thing in the world. And it's so important for our politicians. So now that I'm on the other side of it, like, I'm somebody who too used to like go, and I would love to just be in the back of the room and see, like, you know, who do they talk to? Like, how do they interact? And like, that's actually a big part of this is like, you know, no one as a politician ever actually asked us a question and listened to us in the years that I did this. And it's important that we talk to the people like in the back of the room who all the other politicians are walking past. And I think that's really important. But it's amazing because you get to hear from voters about what they care about. And like, this is the thing that has convinced me. It's not like I went into this and was like, here's what people in New Hampshire care about. I was like, what do we care about? And is it, the same things that I care about? And it is. It is like across the board, people care so much about this state, and we want leaders who are accountable to us. And the only way to do that is to show up in real life and sit down and listen.
One thing that I really enjoyed when I was running, I know it's different, but walking around and meeting people I've never met before, hearing the different subjects that they want to talk about was incredible to me. When I first started canvassing and everything, everybody wanted to talk about education, taxes, the normal stuff.
Sure.
I showed up at this guy's house and he wanted to talk about the water table.
Oh, that's so interesting. We have a major drought, so that totally registers.
Yeah. I don't know if the drought was during this time, but I thought it was fascinating because nobody had wanted to talk to me about that. You get the full spectrum and it's amazing. In the same breath of happiness, have you had like negative experiences along the campaign trail that stick out or anything?
It is interesting. So when I ran for select board the first time, I did like a lot of door to door, and I ran it's a nonpartisan board, but I ran with the support of a lot of Democrats. And I also wrote like individual letters to, independent voters, Republican voters, and the Democrats, introducing myself, saying, here's why I'm running. Here's what I, stand for. I want a younger person at the table. I want a different perspective. I want someone who really is thinking about our families and also like the burden of property tax increases. And I ran against two Republicans. One was the former chief of police. One was a former state rep. And they ran together. And the morning of the election, the former chief came up to me and he was really nice. He said, hey, I'm really glad you're running. It's great to see like somebody new. And I'm going to retire in 3 years. And when I do, I hope you run again. And that night I beat him by 128 votes. And it felt good. But it didn't feel good for the 13 hours I was standing outside of the polling place with my sign, on my piece of cardboard, because so many people just walked right by me. And, a couple people came up and they said, not you. Or they said, you should run for school board first, as if like school board, as if there's like some progression where like a mom should be on the school board before she can be on the select board, when those are two totally separate things. But like they walked right past me and then they walked into the polling place and they voted for me. And now I'm the chair of that select board. And it was a Republican who nominated me to be chair of the select board because, again, like we get around the table every Monday night and we have to make hard decisions. And when people don't agree with me, I hear about it at Market Basket. I hear about it at the soccer field. I hear about bus stop in the morning. And that's okay. And I think people recognize that like I'm doing this in good faith.
Yeah.
I will not lie to you. Like Gaza has been like a really heated issue in New Hampshire. And so many people who are so upset about what is going on are feeling like we not have leaders who are listening to us. And so like I have met with the Coalition for Just Peace in the Middle East. I've also been to Temple, Israel, and like there are people there who have a whole range of perspectives. And so I just think this idea that, Democrats or people are monolithic is so wrong. People are so complicated and contain multitudes and care so much. And we just need leaders who reflect that.
I feel that just as a normal person. I hate those labels.
Yeah.
I had a guy ask me, I got onto his porch and he was like, are you a Democrat? And I paused because the Democrats have a big tent.
Yeah.
And I am a Democrat, but I really, I'm a progressive.
Yeah.
Progressive first.
Yeah.
Because I believe in those values so much. So it's hard for me to answer that question, but I didn't even get a chance. As soon as I paused, he's like, I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Because he had already had a set, like I was going to raise his taxes. I was the enemy, and I hope that we can get past that. I don't care if people disagree with me. To me, that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I want to have the conversation. I want to have the tough talk because that is how we progress.
Yeah.
And I'm going to die in this world eventually, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
I'd like to know that I had a decent shot at life.
Yeah. I mean, I think the disagreements are really relevant, and like the whole process is iterative, right? Like when you go and you talk to people and you meet with them, you learn things and it changes and sharpens your perspective. So like I love these forums. I love the questions that I get because it helps me to think more carefully about the stakes of what I could be in a position to do, and also about like the nuances of these policies, right? Like it wasn't until I was sitting with people who lost access to Medicare Advantage programs like in Conway when I realized like, okay, Medicare Advantage is actually something that's been pretty harmful for Medicare because of how it's competing with it. But this is a healthcare program that people opted into, and then it just disappeared without any advance notice. Congress could have required that people get advance notice when their healthcare was going to be, taken away from them, and also should help people navigate the Medicare system or improve it so people think that actually is a good healthcare, option for me. And so I think that, it's really hearing the stories and like being with people that helps you understand, how many stories that you have to carry with you into Washington, and like how many of our politicians are literally carrying the stories and the questions and the hopes of giant corporations or lobbyists and not regular people in New Hampshire. Like, I don't care if you're a Republican, if you don't agree with anything, like I still believe you should be able to vote, and I still want to represent you effectively in DC.
I think that's a good position to be in, because you want people to have different views.
Yeah.
If everybody had the same view, that would be a terrible earth, right?
Yeah.
I'm okay with having a little bit of friction there.
Yeah.
But I'm not okay with the hate. The hate is really hard.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for it. Most cases, the hate is triggered by something else.
Yeah.
They were fed that hate, whether it's a parent, whether it's news, whether it's, somebody on social media priming somebody to put that out there. And it's tearing us down. It's dividing our communities.
Yeah, Adam, you're so right about that. I was thinking about this a little bit on the way over this morning, because I was at a house party last night, and it was the first time that someone left a house party when I was speaking. And they didn't like make a thing about it. I actually don't even know if this is why they left, but they left when I was talking about trans rights. And I thought that was interesting. It's not something that comes up at every house party, but someone asked me a question, and I think it's really important to answer and to say that I believe that we need to be standing with people who are trans, right? Who are part of the LGBT community. And I think that people, in this country, regardless of their gender identity, want to have access to public education, to healthcare, to housing, right? It's not that complicated. Everyone should be treated with dignity and respect. And like when it comes to hate, I see hate thrown around at people, and it divides us. And like, again, social media exacerbates this. Like, I believe that people need to be always treated with dignity and respect. And it means that we need to always treat other people with dignity and respect. And so like, there are places where I say, hey, like, I'm willing to have conversations. I understand if people don't agree with me, but like, I need you to know that this is something that I will always show up and support, right? I will always show up and support people who are being hurt by our federal government and our laws. And this is like why I've been so outspoken on like the Sununu Youth Services Center and like the victims and survivors of abuse there, and like what's continuing to go on, because these are people who do not have a voice, and they have not been served well by our federal delegation or by our state government.
Yeah, no, that's all true. I think that people really do need to be served in these days, because nobody's getting anything right now. And the whole trans thing, and that whole bubble.
Yeah.
Whether you're gay, a lesbian, a trans, whatever it is, you're a human being first.
Yeah.
And dehumanizing somebody or a group of people is the wrong way to go about business. I'm 48, just turned 48. Thanks. I'm still here and I'm breathing, right? So in my whole life, I've never had somebody that was trans or anything else hurt me. They've never changed my life. They've never impacted a decision that I've made. They've never affected my family, where I live, the job.
Yeah.
They just live and they do what they do, and I do what I do.
Yeah.
So the thought that a group of really rich people, powerful people, decided that trans people would be the scapegoat, or Somalians would be the scapegoat, or Haitians would be the scapegoat. It's always a scapegoat. And then there's a segment of the American population that lap it up.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, they're eating cats and dogs. Where do I get my pitchforks?
Yeah.
It's hurtful because they're representing America. They're representing me. And when they're out in, the world or whatever, and I hate them for it. Not them, but I hate the ideas that they're pushing out into America and the world.
Yeah.
The world is laughing at us. We are not respectable. And I know I'm going to get comments.
But it's killing people. Like, you're not wrong, Adam. Like, to go off that last point that you're making, like, it's our isolation and our sense that, you know, as a country, we don't need to help other people. Like, we're going to cut off USAID and all of these things that we were doing that were literally saving lives around the world because we think that some people are more worthy of living than others. And like, when it comes to trans people, like, I have so many trans students and friends and people in my life who are awesome, and I love them and I care about them. And like, we have the same, you know, frustrations or disagreements or arguments, and like, people want to live their lives. And this is New Hampshire. This is the live free or die state. People deserve to be able to live freely. Like, we need to do a better job taking care of people in this country and taking care of one another.
I just don't know how we get people out of that, you know, especially now.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave this conversation so much, but it's an extension of it.
Yeah.
Our media has been bought by right-wing billionaires.
Yep.
This is a big reason why I started this podcast.
Yeah.
Because we, as Democrats, as progressives, as just regular human
As
beings,
people,
we do not have communication channels to other human beings anymore because it's being filtered by oligarchs.
Always being mediated. Yeah.
There's a constant merge of communication companies, internet companies, all this. Will you stop that? I'm sure. Yes.
Well, the reason we have this, right, is because of choices that people in power have made. And like, fundamentally, we need different people in power and people who will make different choices. Like, it is not inevitable that like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok becomes like the place where we go when we're bored or we're tired or we need information. Those are the results of decisions that have been made. And like, partially it has to do, I think, with the fact that Meta spent $25 million lobbying last year, right? Like, there is a problem that we have in this country with laws that are not made by regular people. They are made by people who have billions of dollars, and they are rigging the system against us, and it needs to stop. But we cannot stop it until and unless we put regular people into office. Like, there is no way around that at this point.
That's the biggest piece right there. What you just said, getting regular people into office. So many people don't understand. I get it. You want to send lawyers to do lawmaking, right? They understand laws, but it's not helping us.
What about teachers?
Teachers
right? What
would
about
be
parents?
Great. Doctors,
union organizers.
We need a coalition of everybody to go there.
Yeah.
435 seats in the House for the U.S. We have 400, so it can be confusing.
Right? We're double lucky in New Hampshire.
But that's a lot of regular people that you can put in there.
I think so too.
You know, this made me think of this. As somebody that's running, somebody that's obviously hooked into politics as much as you are, do you have a politician, either past, present, that you look up to, maybe that you cheer on? Do you have somebody?
Okay, so I'm a historian, so obviously I have lots of people that I think are really awesome who have inspired me. Like, there's this woman, Frances Perkins, who was around during the Roosevelt period, and she helped come up with the architecture for Social Security. And I just think that's amazing. But I also love organizers, right? So like, during the civil rights movement, you know, a lot of us learned about, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and the roles that they played and making sure that, you know, the Civil Rights Act got passed, that civil rights legislation got passed, that people had access to vote, that Black people were not discriminated against in the ways that they had been, and convincing Americans that this was the right thing to do. Because it's not just about passing laws, it's about getting people to follow them. And that's really important. And there was a woman named Ella Baker, and she was a community organizer. She helped organize SNCC and all sorts of young people. And what she did was she would send young people, you know, from college down to schools in the South and communities in the South. And she would say, shut up and listen, you might learn something. And her argument was that people don't need strong leaders. We need strong people. Right? We need strong people in this country. And again, I don't believe that the people are the problem. And so I look to people like Ella Baker for the inspiration, right? This is someone who believed in freedom so much that she just like never rested. She never rested. And she knew that like maybe in her lifetime, we wouldn't get to the place that she wanted to go, but that wasn't enough of a reason for her to tap out. And for so many people, it feels like the perfect is the enemy of the good.
Yes.
And like, I get that. In high school, I was like a real perfectionist. And I was like, oh my God, if I can't do it perfect, is it worth doing it at all? The answer is yes, it is. It is absolutely worth doing. And like, we need to remember that like, we can still do good things, even if they're not perfect. All the time. So people like Ella Baker, but here in New Hampshire, like there are so many amazing people. Linda Haskins is an awesome state rep from Exeter. And like she has been so outspoken on the things that we can do to prevent gun violence. Lauren, you know, you interviewed her a few weeks ago. She's amazing. Like Chuck, mayor of Rochester. There are so many regular people doing incredible things because they believe that they can.
Yes.
And that's actually one of the like prerequisites to doing incredible things is like saying, hey, I think I can play a role here, and then doing it. But there's also like students who are stepping up right now and inspiring me in so many amazing ways. Like people who asked me a question, you know, about reproductive rights, and I answered it. And then they said, I want to volunteer for your campaign. And I was like, that's amazing. Like you have so much power. We have so much power. There are so many people in this state who have run for office and have that experience and who are like organizers or activists or parents or grandparents. Like we are the people who create worlds. Like you created the world for your kids.
Yes.
Like we have done that in our communities, and like we are builders of worlds. And like that's what we need right now in Congress. We need people who can build us a thriving democracy. Like one of my friends is a teacher and he has a magnet on his fridge, and the magnet says, what if it all worked out?
Oh my goodness.
And the first time I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's so profound. And I just think about that all the time. Like, what if we did get the world where we had access to healthcare and like climate change wasn't something that was really like a true threat to us, or we stopped fighting all these friggin' wars? Like, how amazing would that be? And then we remember like the reason we don't have that is because of choices that people made. And we need people who will make different choices. And that's why this election is just such an incredible opportunity. We get to choose who we want to represent us in Washington. We can choose people like me. We can choose people who show up in our communities and who listen to us and who will then be in a position to do something.
It's so important to have people like that. I love that answer, by the way, to go back and think about those people that got us to where we are.
Yeah.
And there's so many people. I often think about the pivotal points in history that changed our country to what it is now. I often go back to Ronald Reagan because that is the epitome for the Republican Party. Like that's their person they look up to.
Yeah.
But he did so much harm to our country, outsourcing everything that got moved to China. That was Ronald Reagan. Citizens United. That's Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, it started there in so many ways.
There was so many changes in the 1980 election. Was devastating for our country.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that.
Adam is so interesting. I'm going to interrupt you really quickly.
No, go ahead.
So Ronald Reagan is so interesting for so many reasons, not just because, you know, one of his most famous quotes is trust but verify,
right?
Which is actually one of the only Reagan quotes that I use on the campaign trail all the time. But so many people think, okay, Reagan era, like that was when our taxes were like decreased. But Ronald Reagan actually increased taxes for like 3 consecutive years. And it was because of the incredible like financial hole that he sank us into with his terrible trickle down economics. And so it's like, this is this model, right? This myth, this story, this legend. And it just feels like we need to start puncturing that. And like, we can't do it online, you know, like where you can edit and make your video look so perfect and your ideas look so good. Like people are not perfect. We are messy. We are complicated. We are awesome and powerful. And like, we need to see that not just in ourselves, but in one another. We really do. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, I love that. Please.
Myth,
this is a conversation. I like this.
Well, it's like the man and the myth. And it just like becomes so hard, right? When we put these people on pedestals and give them almost more power than they actually have. The fact that this man who is dead still has all this power over us is not a good thing. People
still talk about him like he was a saint, like he gave us everything that we deserve. And it's hard. I've spent my whole life basically in war. No different than most people my age or younger, right? 20 years in Afghanistan, Iraq. Before that, right? 4 years before I went into the military, 5, it was Gulf War. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I got to go to Saudi Arabia in 1997, and I lived in those same tents as the other previous people that were in the Gulf War. I was in tent F610 for 6 months at Prince Sultan Air Base. God, that's a memory. But it's those people that got us there. George H. Bush, George W. Bush. Now it's Trump. It's always Republican presidents. I spent my whole life being told that I was a conservative in the military. Thank God I didn't vote because I didn't know where to vote. I didn't know how to vote. I'm very thankful I never cast one of those votes.
Stories people tell, yeah.
But I'm not a conservative. I never was.
Yeah.
I never believed in that. I just got told that I was because I was in the military and war is good business. But I never felt good about that. I felt good about saving people. being part of a humanitarian airlift, bringing food to somebody, rescuing people from a huge typhoon in the Philippines. Not me personally, but being a part of the bigger group.
Yeah.
That's something to be proud of. Bombing people, that's not good.
Yeah.
That doesn't make me feel good.
It's horrible. Killing people is not, it's not something we need to be in the business of doing.
No, and I do hope we get out of it. I won't go into the war part that much, but while we're here, and you had already mentioned Gaza, and I don't want that to slip out because I heard that protesters busted into the Manchester one and wanted answers.
Yeah, it's great.
Gaza.
I mean, people have like concerns, right? Like there's a reason why, one of the things that one of the people who stood up, he said, this question always gets left for last or not asked, and we need to have this conversation. And I said, you're exactly right. You are right. Like there is a reason why people feel like we are not being heard. Like we are watching thousands of people be killed.
It's unacceptable.
It is absolutely horrific. And like watching a genocide unfold and then saying, what are we going to do about it? And feeling like the international community and like the United States have failed. We have failed to do something meaningful there. We have failed to help people and stop horror. And like we have failed to recognize the impact that that's having in the United States on our young people, on our older people. Like moral injury is a real thing. And you obviously know this. And it's like, why are we still doing this? Like, why are we still doing this? Why are we pretending that this isn't happening? And why are we not saying, hey, like we can stop this. We can fix this situation. We can be in a position to cause less harm and less violence and take that opportunity. Like there are so many opportunities here. But it's also just horrible. Like I was a teacher in 2023 when the like horrific Hamas attack happened. And I saw the impact that was having on my students, and especially my Jewish students, some of whom were like really, really advocates for, Palestinian rights. And some of whom were really horrified that their friends and classmates couldn't acknowledge the harm that Hamas had caused. And so I think one of the things that's important is for us to recognize, like we have had such an increase in anti-Semitism in the United States, and it is a real problem that has to get real attention. And we've had an increase in anti-Muslim sentiments. And like this goes all the way back to September 11th, like kids who are being accused of being terrorists and run out of our country. And it's one of those places where if our politicians don't talk about it, where does it get out? Like this energy and this talk has to happen somewhere. And so I was glad that someone asked the question. I was glad that we were able to sit and answer it. I think that voters deserve to know where we stand on this because for some people, it is the most important thing.
I think the most frustrating part of that conversation, though, for the people that do it in bad faith, is just because you don't want Israel to kill everybody does not mean that you support Hamas.
Absolutely, right?
I am so tired of those being like tied together.
Yeah. Absolutely. Those should not be tied. Like we can absolutely untie those. And, one of the other things we can untie is like our frustration with the Israeli government and like the fact that Israel, like, is a country, right? Sure. And there are people there and they deserve to live their happy, safe lives too. And I think that, just like I wouldn't want to go abroad and have someone be like, oh, you're responsible for Donald Trump and his actions, right? I don't want to paint with a broad brush. Like I teach about religion and politics and, all the questions and the things that your parents like maybe advise you against talking about in polite company.
Yes.
I go right into. And it's really important because one of the ways that I help prepare, our future leaders to have these kinds of conversations, because so many Democrats run away from religion as fast as they possibly can, which is never in our own benefit. I say religions are not monolithic.
Yeah.
Right? They are diverse. They are dynamic. They change over time. They are culturally embedded, and we need to treat them as such. And that's true in the United States. It is true in the Middle East. And there is just so much that I think I can help bring to the table when it comes to being able to talk about and have these kinds of complicated, hard conversations that aren't just like reduced to ridiculous talking points where you're like trying to like weave this careful little line between like what your donors will allow and like what your consultants will advise and what will not piss off people. Yeah. It's like we have to have a conversation. That's how we get better at this. This is how we actually move forward in resolving this crisis that we're in and like take more accountability for the role that we have played in exacerbating it.
Absolutely. And if you take this seat, you're going to be really deep into foreign policy.
Yeah.
Whether that's through U.S. aid or other means, authorizing war, authorizing so many different things.
Life and death decisions.
Budgets for the military. You're going to have a lot of this, at your little vote button.
I can't wait.
And I think I know like where you would sit.
Yeah.
I really do think that we have a lot in common as far as policy thoughts go and everything. So it is warming to know that if you do get that chance, I know I'll be represented well.
I'm really glad to hear that, Adam.
You know, and I believe that. It's not just for the podcast. It's not just you. I know that we have a lot of good candidates, and a lot of places don't. So
Classic New Hampshire. We're very lucky.
Absolutely. We have an abundance of quality people that want to go and represent us and do good things.
We do.
And that's what makes this state unique.
Yeah. It's what makes this political moment unique too, right? Because we have like many different generations. You know, we have a Gen Z candidate, we have millennials, we have Gen X, right? Like people from their 20s to people in their 50s. And then Bill Conlon, I'm not exactly sure how old he is, but you know, he's also in this race. And I think that it is important that people have the opportunity to decide. But like, I want to go back to something you had said about this tent that you were in. So after I graduated from college, I was a teacher. And I said this earlier a little bit in the Marshall Islands, which is a former U.S. territory. Yep. And I taught in a public high school in an atoll called Wuche, which is this really spectacular ring of islands around a lagoon. And it's really narrow. So like anywhere you are, you can hear if you can't see the ocean. And it's about like 7 feet above sea level. So like climate change, right? Like rising seas, coral bleaching, all of these things, the salinization of like all of the plants and things that grow there is hugely impactful. And the Marshall Islands is also where the United States tested 67 nuclear weapons after World War II. And our school had a Japanese bunker that was part of the compound for the public school. And there were families who lived in like Japanese bunkers from World War II. And like, you know, when you think about war and the impact that it's had on American history, it's not just about people in the United States, right? It's about the impact that our decisions have had on people around the world and our responsibility for that. Like there are people in the Marshall Islands who are suffering, like generations of people who are suffering from exposure to radiation. And there is just so much that the United States can and needs to do better. And I just think that having that opportunity to have lived and to look at the United States from outside the United States is something that more of our leaders and the people who are making decisions about foreign policy and American power should have.
We've given up a lot of our soft power, I feel. I feel like we have rubbed our allies' noses into a pile of shit. I feel like I don't know if we're ever going to overcome this during my lifetime at this point. I think a few years ago, I thought that we were going to find our way, you know, to find American prosperity. I didn't realize that so many Americans would not show up to the polls. I didn't realize that so many Americans were going to vote for. Honestly, our country's devastated right now. Allies don't take us serious. I don't care what Fox News is telling people. Because we could be taking care of those people. We could get them out of harm's way. There's things we can reduce to you know, save them from radiation, to help people with hunger, there's so many. It's frustrating, right? Because I have 1,000 thoughts in my head of how we make the world better. We're supposed to be a superpower. Trump yesterday or day before was Xi
in China,
right? And he basically said, I forgot the term, the Triasin Trojan or whatever. It was just basically saying, hey, Xi asked Trump, are you okay with us taking over as a global power? You're not going to mess with us, essentially. And Trump just didn't understand what he was saying at all. We gave it all away. We were the superpower. We were the wealthiest country in the world. And when this administration is over, we will not be any of those things.
No.
I don't, if you disagree, please push back.
No, we won't be any of those things. And it's not just like we gave it away, like we literally killed people, and we are killing ourselves, and we are killing the people who live in this country by not doing a better job to take care of them and by making so many irresponsible decisions. I think that, you know, one of the things that most upsets me about the bombing of Iran and like this attempt to dismantle their nuclear program is like we had a treaty, like there was a way to ensure that Iran didn't get nuclear weapons, and Trump pulled out of that in his first term. And now he has cost us so much, and he has cost Iranian people so much. And it's like, for what? For what? Why have we done this? And it's not helping anybody. It is not keeping people safe. And like, we have choices, right? Like, we can spend $137 billion a year on nuclear weapons, or we can spend it making sure that everyone has access to healthcare.
Yeah.
You know, we can spend all of this money on bombs and then run out of munitions, or we can make sure that, you know, people in Uganda have like access to medication that will prevent them from dying from AIDS. And like, we have choices. We have choices. And that's the thing that is so important. Like, so many people don't see that we have those choices because they feel like they don't matter. And I am running in this campaign because I want people to know that they do matter, whether or not they show up to vote, like whether or not they have, you know, $100 in their bank account or nothing. Like, everybody matters, and we deserve representatives who recognize that and who are willing to listen to us when we don't have money to give them, when we don't agree with them, like, who will still come back and be part of, you know, building our country back.
We're going to need a lot of them. It's going to take all hands.
It's going to take all of us. And this is like, when you ask me, like, is it fun, or do you have, it is fun. It's actually amazing. Like, oh my God, how cool is this to see that, like, across the state of New Hampshire, 151 towns, 700 people signed up to volunteer for my campaign. Not just be like, hey, good job, I like you, but to be like, I will organize in my community to make sure that my community knows that you are running to represent us.
There's nothing more powerful than somebody volunteering.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's how you say, how do you want to get involved? Right? You don't just say, like, go phone bag. You say, what do you want to do? Because people have great ideas, and they're amazing.
Yeah, so many different skills, so many, you know, it's so much of all that. You know, I know that the Iran and Gaza and all the bad stuff that's going around the world, the famine, everything, that is as dark as it gets. There's no happy points there. There is one thing that makes me think like, okay, well, at least they're going to get their just dues, because I firmly believe that Trump and the current Republicans, actually the whole Republican Party, Iran is their Vietnam. Without losing, you know, 50,000 people. But that is their Iran, because it's a huge loss. Yeah, it is. It's a huge loss, and everyone knows it, and they know it, and we are going to make sure that they're held accountable. Like, one of the great things about Congress is that, you know, despite the fact that it doesn't feel like they've been doing this, they have 2 jobs. Yes. Right? And I said this at the Beriont Forum. Congress has the ability to provide oversight, and they have the ability to make laws and to legislate. And there is so much oversight that needs to happen. There is so much accountability that needs to happen. And it's not as much like, it's about Trump and like the people who are making these decisions that are harming people, but it's also about us. Yes. Right. As a country, and our decision to say we are a nation of laws. Like, America holds together because we believe that it can. You know, like, there is not enough force in the world to make us a democracy without working people working together to ensure that we are. And like, one of the, you know, famous like political sayings is, oh, it's a democracy. Like, every generation has the responsibility to ensure that it continues. And like, this is our moment. This is our country. Yes. Like, this is our election. These are our kids, and it is our future. And like, anybody who tells you otherwise does not want you to have that power and to recognize what are we capable of. Oh, the people in power right now do not want regular people in power. If you don't have $1 billion, they don't want you there. They will do anything. I mean, we're seeing it with Plattner. We're seeing it around the country where just tens of millions of dollars. And races that normally would never have that much money in them, they're scared of Plattner. Because they know the stakes. They're scared of so many things. Right? They're willing to spend tens of millions of dollars to ensure that people like me and Graham Plattner don't get a seat at the table. And guess what? They can spend all the money in the world, and it probably won't be enough. Like, our day is coming, whether or not it's me or like somebody who, you know, decided to get involved in politics because they're part of this campaign. Like, this is the work of generations, and I am so excited to be doing it. Well, this is also the first time in my life that everybody's feeling it. Yes. It's not just one segment. It's not just liberal tiers. It's not just, you know, this little marginalized group over here. It's everybody. So if you don't feel the gas pump, if you don't feel the grocery price, if you don't feel that, I don't know where you live, but this is maybe the turning point. Right? The turning point. I had somebody actually put in a comment that their gas is down. I said, where are you going to get your gas? Yeah, right. Like, so my comment was, hey, I'm so glad you're getting what you're voted for, you know, enjoy your day. What do you do with that? You know, but I think that this is the tide that turns. I don't know if having the most money is going to get you elected this time.
Well, Adam, it never has been. So like in New Hampshire history, like Chris Pappas didn't have the most money in 2018. Maura Sullivan did. And she outspent him and it didn't work. It wasn't enough then. And in Carol Shea Porter in 2006 didn't have the most money and it wasn't enough.
Yes.
And like, it's never been the person with the most money. Like you need two things to win an election. And sometimes it feels like we're forgetting the second thing. You need people.
Yes.
You need people. And the more people you have, the less money you need. And there are a lot of people right now who want to make a difference, who want the situation to change, who recognize that like we cannot keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting anything to change.
Yes.
Like we can't keep putting the same types of people because we think they're a safe bet or like the lesser of two evils. Like that is not how we fix the situation. And that is exactly why I'm running for Congress.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We need to make this change because if we don't, this road is dark.
Yeah.
And
oh, it's terrible. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. And like we're seeing it, right? Like in the numbers of people who are disaffiliating, 45% of New Hampshire voters are undeclared because they do not want the label of Democrat or Republican.
Right.
And that is something that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party should use and take a hard look in the mirror. And like one of the things that's really exciting when people say, oh, Carleigh, like you're running, you get to DC, you know, you're just going to have to do whatever the Democrats in power tell you. Guess who didn't put me into power?
Not those guys.
The people put me into power, so I will do what the people want, right? What is going to be good for people in New Hampshire, in communities like yours and in communities like mine.
It's people power.
It is people power.
It all starts right below. So I often don't even care. Like when I see the post on Facebook about who has the most money, who's doing the most fundraising, like that doesn't guarantee you a seat. Just
I don't
because
think most people know or care about that. I mean, it does help get your name out, right?
I get that, right? Buy commercials, put out postcards, like all that stuff, throw parties. But people aren't looking for that right now. People are looking for answers.
Yeah. I'm looking for accountability. I'm looking for real change. Like I'm looking for my electricity bill to go down and to have like people in power stop saying ridiculous things like, oh, I'll build another nuclear power plant and that's going to lower your energy costs. It's like that takes decades and like billions of dollars. Like what can we do now?
Solar.
Actually, there are things we can do now.
Yes.
Solar, wind. We can bring back like the incentives for people to winterize their homes and like put in mini splits. Like we can do that. And anyone who's telling you otherwise is not telling you the truth.
Oh no, absolutely. They're filthy liars.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that you just said about the like, it's what you voted for is really interesting because this morning my sister-in-law sent a picture of a car with a bumper sticker that said, I hope you have the day you voted for on it. And I read that and I was like, oh, that's so great. Like I voted for things to be good. Like I want everyone to have a good, like I want, like, I think like I see that and I think, oh, Medicare for all. Like, yeah, like I want to have a Medicare for all day. I want to have like a liberty and justice for all day, like immigration reform day.
That sounds
And then
amazing.
afterwards, my other sister-in-law, like my husband's one of 6, so there's lots of, so she texted in like, yeah. And I was like, oh wait, I think this means like a very different thing than what I initially interpreted. Which is probably like the haters thing, like, bring people in. Like I love like I truly do. Like it's okay if you hate. Like I don't mind. It's okay.
I'm the same. I get hit with nasty comments all day long. Like it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I mean like I feel sad, but I'm also like it's okay. Like I understand why you would not like me or like why you would disagree with me, and I still think we should find a way to figure it out.
That actually brings me into something I would like to talk about a little bit
sure.
because we just talked about the big tent and everything.
Yeah.
I've been getting comments lately, and it's probably just bots and not real people.
You never know.
People have been saying to me, oh, this is why I don't vote Democrat, because you guys all hate, you guys do this. And they've been putting it on us why they won't vote Democrat. So I've been firing back. I told you about, like, hey, enjoy what you voted for.
Sure.
I think it's not my job to convince somebody to vote Democrat at this point, right? Like, if you want more expensive gas and groceries and you want life to be harder and you want to see your taxes go to bombing foreign countries and you want to create more disabled veterans at the VA through injuries and stuff on the front line, then vote Republican.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that you said is like when you hear like when you say like you hope you get what you voted for. The thing is like it affects all of us, right? And so I'm like I hear that and I feel that like sentiment right there, and I'm also like, yeah, but what about the people who didn't vote for this, right? Like there are so many of us who did not vote for this and who are being harmed, and even if we did vote for this or they did vote for this, like do not deserve to be without a home or not to be able to afford to put gas in their car or not to be able to put food on their table. And like one of the things that is important to me is, you know, supporting people locally and like showing people what it means to be a Democrat rather than talking about what Democrats do. So like my husband's the vice chair of our local Democratic committee. And what we do is like we bring people in from the community and like we put together, you know, gift card drives for the end of the school year for families who might not be able to afford to feed their kids, or we collect pet food for the SPCA. And we also run candidates in local elections because we think it makes a difference to have people around the table who are accountable to a community and who hear regularly from different segments of it. And so like when I think about myself as a Democrat, I think about those people, right? I think about like the people in my community who are willing to take time out of their day and like money out of their pockets to support what matters, right? To make sure that we have people who say, hey, we want to make sure that our schools are funded, that our teachers are hired, that we pave our roads, you know, that our firefighters can afford to live in the towns where they work. Like when I was at the State House a few weeks ago testifying because the conversation of like an income tax came up, like for 2.5 hours, I sat there while people said, you know, taxation is slavery. And not once did they say, here's how we're going to pay to run the state. And it's like, costs keep going up and we keep getting less and less. And like, I don't want my taxes going to vouchers or to bombs in Iran. But also I understand that we need taxes to run a civilized society. Like someone has to pay for it. And I'm happy to pay for it. And I just think that, you know, right now it's really unfair because working people pay a disproportionate share of their income to keep our societies running. And we need to stop. But what's interesting, and to go back to what you said about like, where do you get the hate? Like, after Andy Valinsky and a couple people introduced this idea of an income tax, like people whisper it all the time, I think we need an income tax. And I'm like, yeah, I think you're probably right. Or we need more local control, right? We need either some power over how we spend our money, or we need to have like a better way to raise revenue. But one of the things that's interesting is I wrote an op-ed and I published it in the Seacoast Online, Portsmouth Herald, that said, hey, like we really do need to have this kind of a conversation because the majority of us would end up paying way less. And like, I know that when Andy said that, like he got death threats. And I wrote this op-ed and literally at town meeting, like the next week, a Republican came up to me and he said, I really liked your op-ed. I agree with you. And I just think that, you know, the way that we put our message out into the world, like who our messengers are, also really matters right now.
True. That's so true. It's interesting you bring up the income tax thing. I won't get hung up on it too long, but I'm against it. And I'll be clear, like I'm against the sales tax and the income tax idea.
The meals and rooms tax that we already pay.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I think that we do have a revenue issue, but there's so many different things to solve before we get to taxing.
Absolutely.
I understand that it would bring my taxes down as a property taxpayer.
Yeah.
But I think they have removed so many things of revenue that I'll have the income tax talk. Like I'll talk to Andrew about that later, I suppose, after we've brought back I&D taxes, after we have established proper revenue streams. Yeah. And then if we really, really need it, then I guess we could have that conversation. But I just feel like it's way too early to have that, you know, like, and I get it though. I understand where they're coming from.
Sure.
But it's taxing more of people like us.
Yeah.
We need to tax the rich.
I don't disagree with that at all. And like, I'm not out here saying like, I support an income tax. Like that has nothing to do with me running for Congress. Sure. What I'm saying is like, there are too many things that feel like we can't have a conversation about. And that's just one of them.
Yes.
And like, it doesn't help us to be like, okay, we can't figure out sources of revenue for this state.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody should ever get death threats for having a conversation. And I'm not mad at Andrew for having that. Like,
yeah, I think he's really brave for having it. And I think it's important. And it sucks when you get death threats. Like that shouldn't happen. People should not be threatening people because they disagree with them.
Right. I may not be in support of that idea, but we can have that conversation and I can explain my side, you know, hopefully well enough to where we can focus on the good stuff.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something. I want to switch gears.
Sure.
we got to write the questions for the Barrington candidate forum.
Oh, nice.
And my question did not make it. So I want to ask it here because I think it's a powerful question. I don't know if you'll feel comfortable answering it, but I think we'll get there. My question was simple. Will you impeach?
Yes.
And thank you for such a strong response there. For those people that are listening, impeach is a very broad term that I'm using here because it applies to so many people and so many positions that have failed us. And I just want to know that you had the courage to vote to impeach and hold people accountable when you get to Washington. I don't want to send a Democrat that's just going to say, we need to heal the country. We need to move on.
Well, this is how we do that.
Yes.
Right? Like actions have consequences.
Right.
And this isn't like, a kid like messing around growing up. This is like an adult who has power over things like nuclear weapons and war.
Yes.
That he's taken from Congress because they have not exercised their power in that regard, and needs to be held accountable for the crimes that he has committed. And if he is, found guilty of them, then he should be impeached, right? Or he should resign. And I think that, this idea that pretending this isn't a problem isn't going to make it go away.
Yes.
This isn't Trump's first term. This is his second term.
Absolutely.
And, one of the things that I've mentioned before is that impeachment actually can be a really good thing. And one of the things that excites me about it is that, during Nixon's impeachment, that was one of the times when Congress actually felt real urgency to act and to get things done because the eyes of the country were on them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we can do two things, right? We can hold the people in power accountable for the harms that they have caused, and we can enact legislation to make life better for people. Like during the 70s, during Nixon, that's when we passed War Powers Authorization. That's when we got the Endangered Species Act. That's when we passed legislation that gave us the FEC and ERISA. Like, we can do two things at once. And anyone who's telling you otherwise, I don't know what's going on. Like, we can do two things at once. Absolutely. I'm a mom. Like, I can definitely do two things at once.
Yeah, I can multitask with the best of them. I'm just so tired of people saying, oh, it's divisive. We need to heal. We need to, stop thinking about impeachment. But like,
how is letting someone get away with crimes healing? Like, how does that fix anything?
Exactly.
That just sets a precedent for whoever comes next.
We need to fill in all the holes that we've been shown that are exposed. There's too many loopholes to ruining our country.
Yeah, this is true. We can close those loopholes. We can reform our tax system, right? So that the IRS loopholes are closed. Like, the fact that the things that we consider taxable assets is such a narrow category is bonkers.
Yes.
And also the fact that, none of our enforcement has actual teeth. Like the FEC doesn't have enough teeth. The SEC has some teeth. The FTC doesn't have enough teeth right now. Nope. The NLRB does not have enough teeth right now. I think that there is so much that we need to do to make sure that, the laws that we have apply equally to everybody, that they are enforceable, that it's not just, regular people who are getting audited or whatever. It's actually the billionaires who are not paying their fair share and who are rigging the system so that they can get away with it. That's ridiculous.
Which is crazy to me because they have so much money, they'll never be able to spend the amount of money that they have.
It's like, holy crap, like I can make $100 go a long way at a Walmart. And like you have literally billions of dollars, like money that is unfathomable to regular people, where like you have literally endless amounts of money.
Yes.
And like you could pay your fair share so that people wouldn't be dying of things like hunger or not having access to medication or not having a place to live here in New Hampshire.
It's just criminal to me that so few people can have so much money while the rest of us just suffer.
Yeah.
I understand the wealth gap and all that, but we need to tax. We need to get that money back into circulation, not hoarded.
Well, we've been there before, right? Like during the 1950s and 60s, we had a much higher tax rate and we had a much more functional country when like the gap between like regular workers' pay and like executive pay wasn't insurmountably huge. And I think that, one of the things that seems odd, right? This like assumption that, we can only cut taxes, we can never raise them back up. Like we absolutely can. Like we saw the big bill last summer and it cut taxes on the ultra wealthy, it cut SNAP, it cut Medicaid, it cut the food from your neighbors' tables so that people could have more money that aren't you and me. And if we can cut those taxes, we can raise those taxes. I see my taxes going up. I think that we can raise other people's taxes.
Oh, absolutely. If they feel no concern of me paying twice as much for my property taxes than I did in 2018, why should I care whether rich people pay their fair share?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
I mean, but like they can, and it won't cost them very much. Like, I'm not trying to like tax rich people out of like their yachts, but like you don't need a yacht and a private jet and a spaceship.
Right.
While people are going hungry.
Well, 20% of $100,000 a year is different than 20% of $10 billion.
Exactly.
You know, like, I can still live off $1 billion.
I can imagine. I'm sure it's great. Yeah, I actually can't quite imagine, but it must be lovely.
I mean, I'd be able to afford hair at least.
Yeah, right.
At the very minimum. So
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, one day. I get blown away by how misaligned we are.
Yeah.
And it's class warfare. That's what a lot of people don't understand right now in 2026. The culture war stuff. So when I first talked about how people hated me in the comments and, you know, you voted for that.
There must be people who like you in the comments too,
Oh,
right? That's our brain. Yes, we go to the people that hate us. Right?
I get lots of hearts that I give out because there are some really nice people in the comments too. But I just hate that people are so lost. If you need me to bend on the culture war so you feel good enough to come over to my side and put some circles on a ballot, you're wrong. You're wrong. You should know what you stand for. You should understand the policies that you support as a person. And if you support billionaires and you only make $100,000 a year, please spend a little bit more time in front of the mirror in the morning. You need that, you know? And to me, that is really the unjust part of America is so many of us suffer for no reason at all because billionaires hate us or billionaires want the power. Maybe they don't hate us, but I feel like they hate us, you know? I mean, how could you not? It's egregious to say the least.
Yeah, I think it is egregious. It is egregious. It's really hard. And it's also understandable, right? Like it sucks to have no money and it's awesome to have lots of money. And I think that, you know, there has to be like some happy medium where people have enough to live and have time, but also like, I mean, I don't blame people for wanting more because like that's the society that we live in. And like we do deserve better. We all deserve so much better. But like it is class warfare to say, hey, like the only candidates that can ever win races are the people who have the most money. Like even if you support somebody else, like you have to vote for the person with the most money because they have the best chance of winning against a Republican compared to like somebody who talks to Republicans and listens to Republicans and is somebody you want. Like if you want change, you have to vote for change.
Yes.
You have to vote for it. That is the only way to make it happen in the system that we currently have. So many.
I mean, people just show up and they're just straight down, or even Democrats straight down. I'm one of those rare people. I dig in. I read somebody's website. I look at some of their posts. I try to take the full picture of the person before I put it. A lot of people ask me, who should I vote for? When I put signs in front of my yard, every one of my neighbors know,
they pay attention.
You know, what's going on. And to me, that's important. It's important for me to communicate to my community because a lot of people have 9-to-5 jobs or really even more. Some even have 3-4 of those jobs.
Exactly. They don't have time to go research like 400 you know, like it's really hard and it's overwhelming because we're constantly getting so much information and like you literally have an endless scroll on your phone. You're never getting to the bottom of it. And it's just so much all the time. And so it is hard to step back and evaluate and really know what your options are. That's why like shows like this are important, right? That's why being able to show up and hear from your politicians without having to pay $200 is important. That's why me showing up in people's living rooms and like their libraries and their breweries is important because otherwise, how do we develop the relationships with our representatives that we need to hold them accountable? How will they ever know what we think and we feel and we care about?
Yeah, I think that all the time. Some people were talking about this the other day about our town, our school, our select board. And they're like, well, how come nobody ever goes to deliberation? Nobody ever goes to the vote and stuff like that.
Session,
and I get that. But in the same breath, I voted for those people because I trust that they're going to make good decisions based on us. I feel like people expect more now. And that's, there's no answer there, but the politics are weird in today's world.
It's true. The politics are weird in today's world.
I miss the 1980s where I just, wanted 50 cents or 75 cents to go down to the laundromat and play Street Fighter 2 on the arcade
Well, people weren't
machine.
paying like billions of dollars to make sure that you were like getting, so much information thrown at you all the time with a 24-hour news cycle, right?
Yeah, or the constant refresh of social media feeds. It's a fire hose of misinformation.
Yeah.
Things that don't matter.
The incentives are not good.
I want to put people in those seats that are going to vote the way I would expect them to vote. I shouldn't have to follow you all the way to Washington to like keep an eye on you to make sure you voted a certain way. And that's hard. That's hard because we got parents that have to hold jobs that, like 1950's gone. One income households are gone. Here in New Hampshire, you have to make, I think I saw $120,000 a year to make it, to just survive.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure that it depends where you live and your situation, all that. But that's a huge amount of money.
That's more than $15 an hour. It's certainly more than $7.25, right?
So much more.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we get out of that except by voting for the people that are going to make those changes. Yeah. Like real change. This is why I'm so against moderates and centrists. People that will only go and do half measures.
Yeah, I don't really know what like moderates and centrists are anymore. Like I wonder if this paradigm serves us because like I feel like I get my ideas from the experiences that I have and from like the people that I listen to. Like one of the reasons I support universal healthcare, besides like a deep like moral belief that people deserve access to healthcare to be able to take care of themselves, and that's a good thing and a worthy cost, is because I see how much it's costing our communities. Like these things are showing up in our household budgets, obviously, but they're also showing up in our municipal budgets and our school budgets. And it's just going to not end until we fix this, right? Like we need federal help for it. And it's like, I didn't read like, or hear online, like, oh, this is the progressive thing to do. Like if you want the progressives to like you should do like this, this, and this, It's like these policies, like the things that I believe, like they are what I believe because of the experiences that I've had and the people that I've paid attention to.
Yeah.
And the stories that I've read and like the fact that I was lucky enough to be like a student for 20, 30 years. Like that's amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to ask questions and read books and hear from people who are so different than me. And that's where my ideas about what matters comes from. And that's where my thought that like, I think there's a lot of people like this in New Hampshire. And we're really tired of the assumptions that people are making that like there's this like moral middle when in fact like, a lot of us are in really different places on that spectrum. And there is no just like cutting it in half and dividing by like some common denominator.
Yeah, no, I get frustrated when I hear candidates out there saying they want to reform ICE instead of abolish ICE. We need to reduce some of these agencies because they're not working for the people.
Yeah.
They're hired private armies, it feels like. I'm saying like when I hear those kind of things, I'm like, oh, that's a middle of the road, right?
Wait, say more, Adam. So, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I fully agree with this. And I'm somebody who does support abolishing ICE and replacing it with like a whole civil infrastructure that is like far less. That doesn't say that people who come to this country are criminals.
Yeah.
And like we have a very non-functional immigration system. But I do hear from people who are like, if the first thing out of your mouth isn't abolish ICE, like I can't support you. And I'm like, well, it requires more than just saying like two things. Like, don't you want to hear the rest of it?
Yes.
Do you really want like, if someone says reform ICE, you're like, that's it. Like, I can't hear from you.
No. For me, I want to hear the whole thing. Yeah. But usually that's the indicator that I'm about to hear a centrist or a corporate Democrat
an excuse for not changing things in the way that we need.
Right. Yeah. But I'm willing to hear somebody out. But if everything you say is the middle of the road because you want to work across the aisle or everything needs to be bipartisan, like we're not in a good spot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see like, I don't have a good enough sense of what the middle is. It feels overwhelmingly to me like people want healthcare and they want it to be universal.
Yeah. So in that regard, somebody that would say, oh, well, we need to transition and this is going to take...
Well, of course we need to transition somehow, right? Like, yeah.
But then it starts sounding like they've been lobbied by the insurance to slow roll and then derail.
Yeah. Well, it's like, don't tell me what you're not going to fight for, right? Like running for office to tell me what you want. Like put your stake in the ground and say, this is where we're going.
Absolutely.
This is where I will bring us. I will work with anybody who is willing to help us get there.
Yeah.
Right? We can find uncommon bedfellows, but like, yeah, don't tell me what you're not going to fight for.
But in the same breath, I am very aware that perfect is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
And I understand that I will never get the perfect candidate. Oh, right. Maybe. So,
Just kidding.
But
Can't hold anyone to that standard.
But I do agree. Like
Yeah.
from my point of view as just being a voter, I've heard you at the stage and they asked you a lot of questions. I've seen your emails. So I kind of know what you stand for. I don't think you're a middle of the road politician. I think you're a people person. I think you're a people first person.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah.
I just don't want somebody that's going to go down to Washington and just hold a seat for 2 years and vote once in a while with the Democrats. And, you know,
that's the last thing that we need right now.
No, we're so far gone. And I know this is probably hyperbolic, but this is the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I think everybody feels this way. Well, not everybody, but you know.
I mean, people are pulling their hair out right now, right?
Yes.
Like we are losing our minds.
Yes.
We are losing like any sense of stability or certainty or like a willingness to invest or trust one another. And it's because like we are being pitted against one another. I'm absolutely someone who believes politics is first and foremost about people.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I do want to ask you, I know we're getting closer to the end, but I want to ask you, for all the other people that are running for office, lower offices, maybe even higher offices, because you don't have social media, where do you feel like people hear you the most? Like where are you meeting people? Where are you having success as a candidate?
It's a great question. I mean, one of the reasons I love forums is because it's an awesome opportunity to hear from all of the candidates, like at one time in one place. Like it's a really good bang for your buck. You spend an hour, you get to hear from everybody. Like that's a great start. People also hear from me op-eds. I've actually published 11 op-eds this year since I started the race, in the Union Leader, in Laconia Daily Sun, in the Concord Monitor, in the Portsmouth Herald, in the Hampton Union. I'm somebody who I think, you know, really writes a lot and is very clear about what I think. Because I don't want people to have questions about the person that they're voting for. I want them to feel like this is New Hampshire. Like we kick the tires. Like we want the people that we are voting for in our living rooms, like multiple times. We want to see them like on their worst day, like early in the morning before they've had coffee. Like we want to see them at night on a big stage. Like I get it. Like I want that too. And so people, I think a lot of people have found me like doing those op-eds. People have found me at the Rockingham County Commissioners meetings. In Rockingham County, we had a contract on the table about whether or not to house detainees, ICE detainees in our county jail. And I know Stratford has been doing that for a long time.
Yes.
And that's something that I wanted to make sure did not happen in my county, in Rockingham. And so, you know, 3 weeks in a row, I went on Thursday afternoons to the Brentwood facility where we have our county commissioner meetings, 1 to 3. And I spoke up and I asked my volunteers and supporters to come with me and to speak up if this was something that they cared about. And so many people care so much about this.
Yes.
And, you know, that was a vote where we didn't know what was going to happen. There was one Democrat and there were 2 Republicans, and it was unclear what would happen. And I think that, you know, the reason that we got the vote that we did, so 2 of the 3 county commissioners said we want to table this contract. We're not going to have it. It was a Republican who introduced that motion, is because of people like me showing up. I show up every first Tuesday of the month outside the Norris Cotton Federal Building in Manchester, where ICE has its New Hampshire headquarters. And I stand there with a group of Granite State Organizing Project leaders and religious leaders from across this state. And we pray and we sing and we bear witness to what is going on. And we are there when people are going for their ICE check-ins. And like this past Wednesday, I was there because there is a man named Sugrat who had a check-in. He came to the United States from Sudan in 1999. He is a 3rd grader, a family here. And the United States says he is here illegally and he has 6 months to leave the country. And I did not want him to get that news by himself.
Yeah.
Our government is failing people. And so, you know, I don't go with a camera crew. I don't go with a name tag on. I don't go and then post about it on social media. But I am there. I have been in people's living rooms. I am in your green room right now.
Yes,
I have been in your coffee shop. I've been in your library. I've been in the back of the classroom, like listening to you and asking you what you think and just showing up everywhere. And so if people haven't met me yet, like I invite them to come onto the website, to give me a phone call, to send me an email, and let's set up time to talk.
I think that's so important that we have, one, that access, and then two, that you're actually getting out there. You're not just sitting behind a computer looking for fundraising opportunities and just trying to, get through.
Yeah.
We need real people. We need people that are going to go out and do that. I love the fact that you spend time here in Barrington. We're a very small town. I say
Barrington
that, but
rocks. It's a pretty town. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I'm really glad about Barrington is, even though we're small, we have a very passionate community.
Yes.
For instance, we didn't have anything in our intersection, and then that we got told that we're getting a second gas station and it's going to have a Burger King. So many people flooded social media and said, no, we don't want that.
Yeah.
We got it anyway, though. But
social media doesn't always help us the same way that public comment does.
But one thing that makes me feel good about that is I know those same people, I hope, will come out and fight against data centers and AI data centers. So there will not be any data centers or AI centers in Barrington. And I can live knowing that that's not going to happen.
I love it. And it's true. Like so for me, all of this is about listening so that we can organize. I'm an organizer first and foremost, and it is the best thing in the world, because that's how you build power and that's how you make real change.
Yes.
And like the moratorium on the AI, I wrote a piece in the Union Leader about this on Monday. I'm someone who feels very strongly that there should be no further construction of data centers, no more AI in our lives without us having a conversation and voting for it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. But like, this is the thing, like there are communities like this across New Hampshire, even Hampton, very purple. We had a petition warrant article this year come before us, and it was like, do you want to have the police chief of Hampton work with ICE? You want to sign the 287G? And, the select board initially voted 2-2 on that. And at deliberative, we had a Republican state rep come up, amend the article to make it shorter, and I called for a new vote of the select board, and the select board voted 5-0 against it. And the people in Hampton showed up at town meeting, and they voted overwhelmingly against it. Not just Democrats, independents, and Republicans, because we know that what's happening with immigration is wrong. And we are showing up right now, and we need leaders who have shown up with us and who will continue showing up after they are elected.
Yes, absolutely. Immigrants are what make us so powerful as a country. It's how we got our space program. It's that's
the basis of the United. There would be no United States if there was no immigration.
Yeah, I could give probably thousands of examples of how they've made us better. And just picking and cherry picking the murderers and the rapists and
it's ridiculous. And it's also just not true. Like literally 2 out of 3 people who have been deported since January have no criminal record of any kind. And our whole legal immigration system, like people who had been in line for family reunification or for a work visa, has come to a stop. Like it is so profoundly broken. No asylum, no refugee seekers are allowed to come in right now. And that is not the kind of country that I want to live in. And that is not the kind of country that I am going to vote for. Like we are building something better.
Yeah, I want a diverse community.
I want my kids to learn from people different than them. That's why I love public schools, right?
Right. I want my kids, and they've learned from all races, from all creeds, from everything. That's what makes us special.
Yeah.
That's what makes us united.
It's so special. Yeah.
And I love that. We're at the end, and I am so grateful, one, that you would take time out of your campaign to come and do this. But I also want to give you the last word. So anything that you want to tell people, get them into your campaign, whatever it is. Where can they find you? How can they help? How can they get involved? It's yours.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Adam. I want to say thank you. Like, I don't see this as taking time out of my campaign. Like, I see this as my campaign. Like, you are somebody who I hope to represent. And I need to hear from you, and I want to hear from you, and I like spending time with you. Like, I like spending time with people. I think I'm a closer in some respects. Like, I'll hang out for however long it takes, right? Because like, I really do want to know people. People can find me on my website, carleighberiont.com, CARLEIGH.
Yep.
BERIONT, and I update my blogs all the time with stories that I've heard. So like, when Hampton finished its coastal revitalization roadmap, I was like, wow, there's a lot that Washington can learn about climate and energy policy from what we were able to accomplish in Hampton. And what we were able to accomplish would be even better if we had the support that we need from Washington, D.C. And so, my experiences, your experiences are reflected in those blog posts that I write all the time, in the emails that I send out, and the responses to them that I get. And so you can find me in your town, in your neighborhood. And if you haven't seen me yet, I would love to see you. I would love you to be involved in the campaign. Whether or not you agree with me on everything, like I still want you to be part of this. Everybody deserves a seat at this table, and you are so welcome to be part of this. So people can find me anywhere, and they can call me up and get involved in whatever way they think will be most beneficial and a reflection of what they want to see in our next representative in Washington.
Well, thank you so much. I hope people will go out and vote. We're all going to Washington. Whoever we send, we're going with them.
Exactly.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.